This is Fight Club. Come on in. This is Fight Club with me, Gareth A. Davies. A brand new show. We've got a 12-week season. It's in association with Boxing Social. I'm delighted to be invited to do this in the studio here. Coming up on today's very first show, I catch up with Teofimo Lopez the morning after the night before in New York, after his victory over Josh Taylor, of course. We talk heavyweights. How could we not? We must do. George Warren joins us by Zoom later in the show. I've caught up with WBO President Paco Valcárcel. Yes, we'll have some Spanish on this show, a lot of Spanish speaking, maybe even with Ade Oladipo, who is my very first studio guest, my wingman, or I'm his wingman at TalkSport, of course. He is a star of the boxing firmament as a presenter, going big guns. It's delighted. I'd like to call myself his magician's nephew. You can hear him. He's here. Zhieli Zhang also had a message for Tyson Fury. I caught up with him in New York. I also caught up with Leigh and Dmitry Bivol. It's been a busy week. This is Fight Club. Don't go away. Okay, welcome back to Fight Club. My very first guest on the show, the one and only, and he is a one and only, Ade Oladipo. We've known each other, I want to say 3 or 4 years now. Is that how long our show's been going on TalkSport?
I'd say about that. I've known of you for obviously a lot longer before you knew me. So I'm a big fan. So to be your first guest is incredible. I got the call and I was like, of course I'm coming. Of course I'm coming. So yeah, we've known each other 3 or 4 years. I've learned so much from you in that time. And, you know, and honestly, seeing your work ethic and how hard you work and the interviews you do and everything you do around the boxing scene and MMA scene, and even, you know, you skate the surface when it comes to football, it makes me work harder as well. So, yeah, it's been good.
Are you funny you mentioned football? Because I don't really do the football thing anymore. I was an Arsenal correspondent for 4 years. I'm a kind of a lapsed Arsenal fan. George Warren, of course. Arsenal in the blood. Oh, I've been to Frank Warren's box a few times at the old Highbury, not at the new ground. Oh, no, I have actually way back in the day. I think I have. But, you know, I was very lucky that I was an Arsenal correspondent for 4 years around the time of Arsene Wenger.
I don't think people know this.
No, Manu Petit was a good mate. Bergkamp was a good mate. And obviously the back six. Seaman, Winterburn, Keown, Bold, Adams.
Wow.
Who else? Dixon.
Wow.
All good mates. Ian Wright, I would like to say, I used to roll up. You've seen the credits with the motorbike. I used to have a big old Kawasaki Z1300 6-cylinder bike, weighed about 250 kilos. I used to roll up at the training ground. It was at London Colney years ago before they had an Arsenal training ground. And I got Ian Wright into biking. And now he's a member of the Rough Riders now,
he loves his bikes. Ian Wright loves his bikes.
They couldn't ride bikes.
He likes his boxing as well, you know.
He does. They couldn't. Of course he does. He'd have been a lovely little light middleweight, or
maybe even a little less. Yeah.
But all that generation, Wenger came. I must have tea with him and chat with him in French at times until he kind of withdrew a little bit. But that was a great era. That's another time. This is now.
Yeah.
Your club is
Liverpool.
Oh,
it's Liverpool. Yeah, it's Liverpool. It's my dad. So coming from Nigeria back then.
But you've grown up your life here, haven't you?
Yeah, I've grown up here. So I was born in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I came here when I was 18 months old, and I've lived there ever since. I lived in Brighton for a few years up until I was about 9. Then came to London, and have tried to sort of go back to Nigeria as much as possible, just to make sure that I've not left those roots. I always go back to Nigeria every 3 or 4 months if work permits, just to kind of, you know, rekindle the language, learn that, the food, the culture, etc.
Why is he Liverpool?
You know, it's because my dad. So when my dad came over to England from Nigeria, you immediately go to the best black player, and the best black player at the time was John Barnes.
Oh, I see.
And John Barnes,
so
Liverpool.
John Barnes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in Africa. Like you'd get a lot of African fans that are Chelsea fans because of Didier Drogba. A lot of African fans would be Arsenal because of Ian Wright and Thierry Henry. So a lot of people. And Vieira. So a lot of Africans. Vieira. I'm not going to sing that song. Remember, I'm Liverpool.
He comes from Senegal.
Senegal.
He plays for Arsenal.
Arsenal songs are so basic, aren't
They are. They
so,
really are.
literally,
They
there's a couple
really
of
are.
syllables here, mate.
It was a great 4 years doing it. I didn't grow up playing soccer, as I call it. I'll get shit for that. You can swear on this show.
You know, it's funny you said it, actually, because I was doing something for DAZN in Istanbul for the Champions League, and I had to keep saying soccer. And I hated it. Yeah.
No, there's nothing to hate.
I was like,
about
look at this amazing
It's
football
all
stadium. Can't start
semantics.
again.
It's semantics.
Nonsense.
It's the use of language.
Oh,
That's all it is. They're
soccer.
different words.
Yeah, I guess.
Why boxing? You've got a great knowledge, a great enthusiasm. I love working together because you always bring. I think you're very rarely off the mark. It's a sport of opinions.
Yeah.
It's a barroom chat. That's why I love running into fans. And by the way, we want all your fan views through this show. Send your messages.
100%.
We don't want the abuse, but what we want is what would you like to see on the show? Who you'd like to be interviewed on the show? What you'd like to ask people? We've got questions for George Warren. I've got some questions for you.
Okay.
Why boxing and MMA? What is it that took you as part of that? I know you weightlift, you're in fantastic shape.
I'm breathing
You're
in
a bit
right
of a
now.
stud.
Yeah.
But we keep that quiet. Why boxing and MMA?
I think boxing first. I think everyone in the 80s, sort of, especially with my dad, it was almost like Mike Tyson was a family friend. My dad had a massive Mike Tyson picture and would watch and stay up until 4 or 5 a.m. to watch the Mike Tyson fights. So that was early. My own sort of journey was in the 90s with Eubank, Ben, Steve Collins, Prince Nassim Hamed, then moving on to Joe Calzaghe. So I then followed it there. That's when it started for me, but very casually. I mean, I wasn't in any way, shape or form a hardcore boxing fan.
You're a big AJ fan?
Massive AJ fan.
Yeah.
I think what AJ's done for the sport over here in terms of bringing a completely different fan base of ladies, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Ladies,
Everyone, grannies.
young, everyone loves AJ.
Yeah.
So I jumped on that as well. But I've always I think most people just like the idea, and this is quite raw, of just seeing people have a fight. And it's very...
It's deep, it's primordial.
It's what we are.
DNA stuff.
Someone joked about you could have Michael Jordan versus LeBron James playing one-on-one around the corner. Two guys fall out of a pub and start fighting. All the eyes would go to the pub and see the fights. We've always been there. It's just how we are.
Yeah.
So I've always liked the idea of watching people fight. And then I think MMA came for me with the old days in Pride. Watching Pride, I just thought was just incredible, almost barbaric, but incredible. Watching the likes of Rampage and Wanderlei Silva and all those guys.
And Fedor Emelianenko, who's one of my great heroes.
Yeah.
The greatest heavyweight ever.
We can have that debate.
John Jones will be the greatest
John
heavyweight
Jones
ever,
will be,
eventually.
Yeah. I actually think it's Kane, but I can understand how you say Fedor. I think when Kane was
You've got to
his
give
peak-
it to Fedor.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe we can
You
give it
look
to
at that
Fedor.
wrecking ball style he had.
Yeah,
and
it's a
that
shame
he
we
was
didn't
in-
see Fedor in the UFC. Not
He
that
was
would have changed
faded by
anything.
then.
He was faded by then. You're right. It's a shame.
But there was a time in Pride when he was running through Krokop
Everyone.
and Nogueira and all these guys.
Yeah.
9 years he was unbeaten as a heavyweight.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it was more of an under-the-counter sport, you said, it was brutal.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, it was.
It wasn't far off
Remember,
headbutts
it still
at
is
the time, was
illegal
it?
in some countries.
Yeah.
I mean, you had people getting stomped out.
Yeah.
I mean, Wanderlei would step in your head as you're on the floor. I mean, how brutal is that?
yeah.
So you can understand, as much as we love the sport, you can understand why people turn their noses up to it. It's a brutal sport, and still is, even though they've tried to clean up a lot of things, it still is a barbaric sport.
Oladipo street fights growing up?
Loads.
Really?
Loads, yeah.
I can't imagine that because you've got such a gentle vibe.
You know what it is? I grew up...
And you're a big guy as well. You know, you're not one of those guys who is necessarily going to be picked on. And you must have been sporting.
Sporting, yeah. Football, massively when I was young. Basketball and athletics. Athletics was probably the number one for me, but football closely second. But fights, yeah. I mean, I've got two older brothers that... One of my older brothers in and out of jail all the time.
Really?
Yeah, in and out of jail. I grew up in a rough area in Stratford where, unfortunately, my mum kicked me out when I was 17. So I went to a homeless hostel for like 4 years. And that homeless hostel, it's called Focus E15, very violent. It was for 18 to 24-year-olds, and it was 240 of us. So you can imagine.
Pecking order.
Well, I mean, it's just,
No.
but what's going to happen? Yeah. So you're going to have to fight, unfortunately, to get away with it. I had a few friends that passed away through street violence. A very good friend of mine, I've got his tattoo here, Olu, got killed in South London through street violence. So unfortunately, it almost was a way of life. I didn't I didn't do any college. I didn't do any university. And I'm not saying this is sort of as a good thing, because I would recommend everyone do that. But that's just, for me, that was what it was. And then I just got a job. I met a girl.
As you do.
As you do, who kind of softened and helped.
I met a girl. I got a job.
You know, I met her on the train. She had a bald head.
On the train.
On a train.
She had a bald head.
She had a bald head. And I met her on the train. I met her on the train. I know this isn't
changed
very
your life.
boxing. She honestly did. I saw her on a train and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to her on the train because if you get rejected on the train, what are you going to do? You got 5 more stops. So she got off the train. I got off the train. She went that way. I went that way. And then about 2 weeks later at a club, my friend saw a girl coming out of the club, bald head. He's like, there's a girl that you described. But shut up. I said, impossible. It was her. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You remember me from the train? She said, yes. And that was it, 15 years later.
Wow.
We're not together anymore, but yeah, we were.
No, but listen, it always happens. I met a girl, ...
Yeah.
That's our lives.
That's it.
You
That's
know?
it. But she was a massive part of just getting me on the straight and narrow. Indeed.
Straight and narrow is an interesting thing because you don't want it too straight and you don't want it too narrow.
What are we talking about now?
You want to meander in life.
Okay.
And you want to go broad and wide. You know, I've been lucky to work in 40 countries, 100 cities. You know all this stuff. And when we work, we go narrow and deep into a niche subject, don't we? We're focused. Which
I don't want to do, by the way.
Yeah.
And I remember, obviously now, got an agent, which is still quite strange. I remember even telling my agent, I don't want to be the boxing guy. I don't want to be, because I love all sports. I'm a big sports fan. I mean, I could...
Don't spread yourself too thin.
Don't spread myself thin, but there is sports that I randomly... Like, I watch badminton and table tennis. Love them. Absolutely love them. We can talk badminton.
Listen,
no,
we'll play
one
badminton.
second.
We'll play...
1 second. Badminton's good. I like a bit of rugby. I know you're a rugby guy. Big rugby
absolutely.
Fan. Yeah.
A lot of
so
rugby.
I grew up on Jonah Lomu and rugby. So, yeah. And obviously in this country, you've got to do football. So, yeah, I don't want to be known as just a boxing guy, but I do love boxing.
I'm going to ask every studio guest this question. We might even ask George this later. Maybe George Warren, who's going to be joining us soon. If you were marooned on a desert island... Yeah? Marooned on a desert island.
Yeah.
And you needed a girl Friday. Maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Only got energy for Friday.
A girl Friday.
Yeah.
Who would you choose right now?
Erykah Badu. I'm a big Erykah Badu fan.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. Wild. She'll sing, she'll roll up weed, she'll find, somehow she'll go into the water and catch fish and cook it for us and cook a nice organic meal. And I think how can we go?
No, it's fine. It's after hours. It's after hours.
And I think everything else would be fantastic.
Would you have children on the island?
Island
with
children?
Her?
No, because I want to be.
Her?
Yeah. But I've always loved Erykah Badu. So my girls have always been Erykah Badu or Halle Berry. That's been my two
Halle's
for
married
20
and she's
years.
too old for you now anyway.
Erykah's around the same age. I'm 50-year-old, I don't mind. But I'm 42. I'm no spring chicken, so yeah.
42 and looking beautiful. Erykah Badu.
Oof.
Get in touch with us.
Please.
If you're ever going to a desert
Let's see
island.
the power of Boxing Social and all the fans. Send it out. Spread the word. What did they say? The power of 6. Someone I know will know someone who knows someone who knows her, right? You never know. Gareth, you've got a big contact list book.
You know it.
Yeah.
This is Fight Club. He's Ade Oladipo. We're talking George Warren next. He joins us on the Zoom. Don't go away. Welcome back to Fight Club, here with me, Gareth A. Davies. Ade Oladipo's taken a little break. George Warren, son of Frank Warren, or should I say his father is a legendary promoter, but he is going to be even bigger and better. He loves the behind-the-scenes stuff. He's almost as invisible at times as Al Heyman. He won't forgive me for saying that, but he's here with us, and we really appreciate him joining us on the show. George, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Gareth.
Right. I'm not even going to talk about the heavyweight scene for a moment. I'm going to talk about you. Were you destined to follow Dad into the sport? You're the CEO of Queensberry now. You got involved with Box Nation 12 years ago. You were going to work in the city, earn your millions in the city. You were going to be a footballer. Let's talk about your soccer, first of all. Come on. What position did you
Oh,
play? How far did you take it?
No. Definitely not gonna. I was never gonna be a football player. I played to a good level when I was in my teens and enjoyed it, but enjoyed life outside of sport probably a bit too much for that. But no, for me it was a very very lucky experience growing up. Was obviously heavily spoiled, and as we all were, and yeah, I went to university. Had a great time up there. Went up to Manchester, came out with a degree. Worked as a commercial agent for a football agency in London for a couple of years. I got recruited to go and work for an investment bank. They were setting up a sports fund, and then kind of at a similar time that I was debating whether or not to go down that route, Box Nation was being launched, and a couple of conversations with my dad. I was quite keen to get involved. I thought it was going to be exciting. Obviously grew up around the sport, loved the sport. It's a passionate family, tradition to be involved in this. We love it. We love what we do. We've all been involved at some point, and some of us continue to be. And I think it was probably always on the horizon that it was going to happen. I'm not sure if it was going to happen as early as it did, but I kid's quite young, I suppose, by certain standards this time. I was only 25 when I had my first child, so had to grow up quite quickly, take on that responsibility, and with that, just kind of had a bit of a drive to make sure that the business, the promotional company, was being successful. As you said, I was involved with Box Nation for a long, long time, and I suppose my role with Queensberry just really came at the forefront of my responsibilities on the back of the BT Sport deal that we negotiated back in
2011, was it?
Started that process in 2015, but we signed it in 2017, and obviously since then been acting as CEO. And we've got a great team here, great people. A lot of them have been with Dad for a number of years, and we're a good team. We're going to just continue trying to do what we can and deliver good events, make money, deliver opportunities for fighters, and continue to try and build on it.
Very quickly on the football, Roy Keane style midfielder?
No. I was more of a up front left wing. I'm left pegged. So
Are you?
So always from a very early age, just get out on the left, which was, I suppose, what was traditional. Nowadays, it's kind of the other way, isn't it? The way that tactics have moved on. But I would have been what I'd say a traditional left winger.
My favourite player, I was talking with Ade earlier about being an Arsenal correspondent for 4 years, and I went along with Dad a couple of times to the box. I mean, I remember you as a tiny child, to be honest, because I've known Dad for over 30 years. Dennis Bergkamp was my favourite Arsenal player, because you got Arsenal in the blood.
Oh, Ian Wright, without
Nice.
a doubt. Yeah, just the best goal scorer. I mean, a great player, determination. One of those that I think a lot of sports people can look to as maybe not the most. I don't want to be disrespectful, but probably not the most naturally talented in comparison to a lot of football players that came out of that generation, but just worked hard, concentrated on finishing, and he was just an exciting player to watch. And I love the fact that he got into it quite late. I don't think he got his first pro contract, did he, till he was about 21. So no, childhood hero, I definitely write it.
Before we get on to the heavyweights, we've got some questions from the public. I haven't even read these yet, so here's some interesting ones for you, right? Has social media caused major issues organising fights and splits? It seems the negotiations are now played out all over social media, while the fights we want to see have not been made. What's your view on that?
I don't think it's helpful. Things always being put out in public. It's, you've been around in the game longer than I have, Gareth. It's difficult to keep things tight-lipped when there are so many different individuals. You've got different, trainers, management teams, promoters that you're dealing with, networks, and there's always going to be some spillage. And we saw that recently when we extended the invitation to Team AJ to try and see if we could reinvigorate that fight for the summer, and it got quickly leaked out. It's just one of the things that you have to deal with. I think that what I always try and maintain and say is that you've got to ignore, and boxing fans should try to ignore, a lot of the things that are spoken about publicly, because ultimately, until something's signed and it's delivered and the fight's formally announced, there's nothing really to talk about. So I try to avoid speculation, but simultaneously, you've also got a duty of care to your fighter. You got to make sure that they're protected. If they're, I don't want to say if they're being, let's say, publicly reprimanded, where perhaps fault isn't at their doorstep, you need to step in and help navigate them through that and try and do the best that you can. But they're individuals. Some are more emphatic and more willing to engage publicly with their demands than others. So each one's kind of a learning curve, and each fight is an individual. You have to take it basically with each different match and who you're dealing with.
Will Alexander Usyk versus Daniel Dubois, obviously the mandatory WBA title fight that we hear is Poland, August the 26th, be on BT Sport or TNT Sport?
Well, if it's on by that time, if we manage to agree terms and get that over the line with K2, who obviously was successful with the bid, it will be on TNT Sport, the new name of BT Sport. Nothing signed on that yet. No date has yet been formally provided to us in a contract. We've got we're working extremely hard with Alex and his team to get that done. But ultimately at the moment it's their fight. They won the purse bids. Congratulations to them. We're obviously going to try and work with them in a positive way to make it as big and as great an event as possible. And here's hoping that Daniel can bring those belts home back to the UK.
That really would upset the apple cart for all the talks, but who knows? Listen, heavyweight boxing, as you know, as I know, been around it long enough, anything can happen. And you've always got to expect the unexpected. This is a good one because I know you have a good working relationship with him because he mentions it all the time. How is your professional working relationship with Eddie Hearn? Do you agree that maybe it's time for all the dads to step aside and let you and Eddie just get on with it?
Look, everyone's got their different ways of dealing with people. I'm my own person, I'm my own man. I will decide how I wish to communicate and try and get things done. I don't see there needing to be necessarily a positive or a negative relationship with anyone in this sport. It's about business, about trying to get fights done, trying to make fights happen. That's what our job is to do. The bigger the event, the more that we can make of the fighters that we work with in terms of the size of the fights that they're taking on. Obviously, that's going to be incredibly productive for what I'm trying to do, which is just to make a profitable business and to make money. So the bigger those fights are, obviously I'm incentivized to try and do that. But we're under instructions a lot of the time from the fighters on who they want to fight and who they want to kind of look at as their next step, whether that be at the elite level, such as Tyson, or as guiding these guys through as youngsters. I have no problem working with anyone, but I would say that we've never really had a problem with working with anyone. I suppose at the moment being asked to do a bit more out in the front. It's not something that I necessarily tend to like doing. As you know, Gareth, I like to just get on with the work. But we've always been open to doing fights with every promotional company in the world. We've done that successfully over the years. My dad was doing it for a long, long time before I was involved. So long may that continue. If I can help with sensible conversations and everyone else involved in those conversations can be sensible, then hopefully sensible decisions can get made. And more importantly, we can deliver some fights that fans want. So that's the aim of the game.
When the production team and myself had a quick chat with you this morning before we came on air, I wanted to ask you a question. If you had a magic wand, what would you do in the sport now? And the answer you gave me then, which I'm going to ask for now because it was so brilliant, was you named a lot of the fights that already happened this year. And if we can get the ones that are being talked about, if we move on to that, give me your answer for that. If you had a magic wand, what would you do in the sport?
Certainly there are things that, from the business side of things, that are frustrating. I think even like I just said, that social media leakage of information is something that can sometimes be a bit of a hindrance to fights getting made. You'd love everyone to park up egos, whether that be fighters, again, managers, promoters. We've all been down that road where stuff's got in the way of fights before. But I don't think the sport's in the place that certain people within it, particularly, you on that sofa, not you directly, Gareth, but people that are within the media, sometimes portray it. I think the year so far has been a very strong year for boxing, specifically on a world level. We started with a great fight with Anthony Yarde and Artur Beterbiev.
Agreed.
We didn't get the result that we wanted for Anthony. It's a great fight. We saw Smith Eubank on Sky Sports Box Office, which was another great event. An upset that some people thought. I actually always fancied Leigh for the fight, but a lot of people saw it as an upset. Joyce and Zhang was a great fight, very well received, very well matched, and that's just some of the stuff that's been happening here. If you look over to America, Spence and Crawford's now been announced. That's on the back of Tank and Garcia.
We've just
Hailey Lomachenko, another close, great fight.
Yeah.
Taylor Cameron, another great fight. We've got Inoue Stephen Fulton happening this year. And yes, there are possibilities of some really exciting stuff for the heavyweights later in this year. Definitely one on the cards is obviously the Joyce Zhang rematch. And I'm sure that some of these fights that we want to see in heavyweight boxing are going to happen. So I think we're in a good place. I think that the negativity sometimes over-egged, and comparatively to other sports, for every, and I always kind of use this analogy, people like to talk about league structures, and if you had it kind of centralized, such as like football is with the Premier League is, an outstanding league structure, and it's an amazing, I'm a huge football fan and I love it. But for every Arsenal Man City game you do also get the, a Crystal Palace versus Wolverhampton. So it just shows that you have to take everything, I think, in the round and ultimately look at it in the bigger picture, look at where we are this year. It's been a great year, I think.
Yeah, as you say, and I agree with you, having been around a long time, boxing's not broken. It is peaks and troughs. It is developing fighters and the very biggest names. There are inflated financial numbers. And as you and I always talk about, it's as much a business, if not more a business than a sport. And your answer will always be, yeah, but every sport's a business now, which it is. There's no Corinthian spirit anywhere. It's about bums on seats, making numbers, and it is commercial. There's a frustration from the fans about, and as you rightly say, we've just had Lopez and Taylor, which I was at the weekend. It was an amazing event. Ade and I are going to speak about that in a minute. I mean, I've interviewed Teofimo Lopez. We'll hear from him in a minute. We do need those heavyweight fights to happen either this summer or this year. Most people want to see the undisputed title fight between your guy Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Most people want to see Anthony Joshua in a couple of big fights this year. Obviously, Zhieli Zhang, and you and I have spoken about this, Zhieli Zhang would have been a great opponent for Tyson in early September. Where do you take Tyson Fury now? Do you have to keep him busy before, if and when he does fight Usyk this year in an undisputed title fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, it's not been for a lack of trying. We've been trying extremely hard, and I think more than probably any promoter out there at the moment that's involved in heavyweight boxing, I think we've been the most proactive in trying to make these fights. It's been us that's been sending offers out, trying to set up meetings, trying to set up negotiations for these fights. And people have all got their opinions on terms and splits, and a lot of it is just background noise. But we have tried to make them. We are, purposely trying to do that. That's our job. Not only, as I say, for the sake of my business, I want to be doing the biggest fights because that's what we do. That's what our business is about. But also Tyson wants those fights, and Tyson has made it extremely clear to us that they are the fights that he wants and that excite him. But sometimes timing doesn't work, and sometimes people want to go in a different direction. Some people don't like the commercial terms that are offered, and things can be debated and negotiated. And to be honest, a lot of it should be kept more private. I think that would help. But at the end of the day, I do believe that we will see these fights. I think a lot of them will happen. It's just a timing thing at the moment.
Can you confirm as well that there are no offers or contracts yet for Fury and Usyk? And I understand there aren't any for Wilder and Joshua, from what Eddie Hearn's been saying. For the Middle East, that is, for Saudi.
Correct. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, without going into huge detail, we originally, a deal in principle was agreed for Tyson and Usyk to fight in Saudi in December.
Last December.
Usyk, unfortunately, last December, Usyk was unavailable because of the delay to his fight with Joshua, asked for more time. We were asked if we would consider pushing that back to February. We agreed to that. It wasn't a problem. We then received a formal offer to fight Alexander Usyk in February or March in Saudi Arabia. That offer was accepted. We accepted that. We were hoping to move towards contract, but for reasons outside of our control, more to do, I think, with Skills Challenge in Saudi Arabia and their scheduling. They weren't able to do it within that time parameter anymore. We worked with them to try and see if we could revive it for post-Ramadan, but it wasn't again available because of venue access. And since then, we continue to have very good and nice discussions with them. They're a very good bunch of people. But as we sit here today, we do not have an offer. We do not have anything to base any decision-making on for Tyson, particularly around fighting in Saudi in December. But look, if that offer comes in, it'll be looked at, it'll be discussed. Ultimately, Tyson's the boss. He's going to make his decision on what he wants to do with his career. It's not for me to do. We will give him the guidance that we think is appropriate. But right now, there is nothing for us to go and talk to him about. And I understand that they're considering making that over the course of the next few weeks. And I think if they do, we'll engage with them and hopefully it will come off. And in the meantime, our focus is to get Tyson active because he's not fought since December. And it isn't good, I don't believe, for the heavyweight champion of the world to be this inactive.
Hand on heart, do you think we'll see him fight twice this year?
Yeah, I think right now our intention is for him to fight in early September. I think it's been made quite clear that that's what we want to do. And I know Tyson's keen to fight again before the end of 2023. Does that become January? I don't know. I think January is a more challenging month than December. So I hope to be able to get Tyson's first event away in early September because it gives us more time then obviously to focus on a December date. And we hope that conversation's about Usyk, but we only control one side of that chess piece, I suppose, and that's Tyson.
It's really weird at times, heavyweight boxing. I always say this, especially when it gets to big money, is timing, ego, and finance. And we are in a weird stalemate on the board at the moment. I'm not going to go into it anymore with you. Love the shirt, by the way. I'm glad you got dressed up for the show, but you probably always do. Nice watch, nice shirt. Very, very smart man. It's an absolute pleasure.
Just for you, Gareth.
Thank you. No, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully we'll get these fights announced in the next few weeks. And then it can that cloud of frustration that you hear in the echo chamber of social media that's very loud will just go away. Because like you say, behind the scenes, you're working your nuts off to try and get these things into fruition.
That's all we do day in, day out is try and make fights and deliver opportunities and create events, deliver opportunities for the fighters that we're involved in and deliver events that hopefully punters are going to buy tickets for and tune in and watch on soon to be TNT Sports. So that's the focus. That's what we'll always do. If those fights can be made, they're conversations that we want to be happening. I can't obviously control all aspects of everything. I can only control the guys that we're involved in to a certain degree. But yeah, listen, we are absolutely working hard to try and deliver all this stuff.
George, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time today on Fight Club.
No problem. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate. This is Fight Club. Don't go away. Welcome back to Fight Club with me, Gareth A. Ade Oladipo in the studio with me, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Well, look, I was in New York at the weekend. The morning after the night before, I rolled into Teofimo Lopez, who had this to tell me. You back mentally, mentally and emotionally in a really good place after that success?
I think all it does, it takes a lot of, it's just a big sigh.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? It's the part, I think, that with God, the Creator, He gives His toughest battles to His toughest soldiers. So personally, outside of my sport and inside of my sport, He gives me all the hard shit. But I make it look easy, but it's not. I mean, People say my mental's off or wrong, but I'm getting deals with all the best in the world, from Nestle, Bud Light, Disney. I mean, what else? Rain. I mean, there's so many. Essential water.
And it was a
So if I
brilliant...
was mentally ill, I don't think that was.
No, you're not mentally ill. I never thought that.
I don't, but I don't understand, you know. But that's for
No,
everyone
you're
else.
kooky. You're kooky. You've all got screw loose to be fighters.
No, I think you know what it is though. I think it's like the most are not the craziest people the most brilliant.
Yeah. You love spending time with lunatics. We all do. It was a brilliant headline today all around the world, but that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm gonna save that for tomorrow's interview with ESPN.
Okay. But I mean, we'd love to see you in with Haney.
No, yeah, but I'm done. No point no more. I'm young. I'm 25. I know that, you know. But it's at this point, I really want to convert my takeover promotions. I really want to make this into a big thing now. You know, like take care, sign young athletes that I like, that I gotta see myself. And I want to start using I have so many ideas for the sport to help the sport, really. And I want to take that time to just take away from that and focus on all the projects and ideas that I do have. I have a stack of them. You know, I'm going to open a gym, a physical gym and everything for combat athletes in South Florida and Miami or in, so that way we leave it all open for all the kids and everything to come out.
And you know what was really lovely was how classy you and Josh were with each other afterwards.
Absolutely.
You said you didn't mean
class
that you wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
You guys got to he came into your dressing room. It's always lovely to see that.
Oh yeah, most
You
definitely.
know,
I
the
mean,
beef is done, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think what really was with me is that I'm going through so much personally. I think the emotions built up, and
Come
I
here.
see the
Cheers.
hard things.
It's always a pleasure to be around you. Never forget you when Adam and I sat down with you here. Your life exploded.
Yep.
You're back. Big
Oh,
time.
yes,
Thank you
absolutely.
very much.
Thank you.
you very much. It's been a
I
pleasure.
just
to be
think
around
that for everybody, I know I have so many supporters and fans, but it's my business of boxing that does not like me. I don't know for what reasons. Maybe because I know what it is to be a
You
fighter.
know, we did trash talk, and I said, you've got. I called Josh arrogant at times. Your arrogance is what makes you.
Yeah,
But it's a great thing.
I get you.
Yeah,
I get you.
well, I'm
I think-
58.
but
When you're 58, you don't have that arrogance anymore. When you're in your 20s, you have
you know what
it.
it
Keep
is?
it.
I think
Keep
you
it.
know what? It's
Yeah.
confidence. But you,
Yeah, but there's an edge to it,
Yeah.
and that's why people love you and hate you.
But no, it's just
You know?
the business is getting so bad in boxing. Like, it's corrupt very bad
Right.
in boxing that they know that I'm a fighter that knows that we are the boss.
Right. That's good to hear.
You know, and they don't
Never
want,
be the slave, be the emperor.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and the thing is, they don't want these other fighters to catch on.
Yeah.
So they want to throw it at me. You know, because I'm the guy that's actually catching on to this stuff.
So, Eddie, Teo Lopez,
Yeah.
I'm retiring.
Yep.
I want $100 million for my next fight. It's a well-worn path, this.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, Floyd
don't ask, you don't
Mayweather.
get. You don't ask, you don't
If you
get.
don't ask, you don't get. Exactly. If you don't pray to the money lords, you don't get it. Let's talk about the fight very quickly. First of all, for me, it was a masterclass.
Yeah, too good. Too good, too fast. At times looked too strong, looked like the bully in there. You wouldn't think that he was the guy coming up from 135 pounds, albeit a couple of years ago. Just looked too sharp for Josh. Josh has been out the ring 15 months. I know Josh didn't want to use it as an excuse, and I'm guessing...
He was magnanimous afterwards,
He
wasn't
was,
he?
he
And
was.
there were no excuses.
No, you're right. And I'm guessing he didn't want to use it as an excuse because of obviously what happened after the Jack Catchell fight. But being out the ring 15 months is far too long for any fighter. And let's not forget, the last time he was in the ring at 140, he said 140 was too tough for him. So the fact that he's fighting at 140 a year and a half later against a very good Teofimo Lopez was always going to raise alarm bells. But look, without giving any excuses to Josh, Teo was just too good. Sometimes you run into a fighter that's hot, he's just hot, and maybe...
That was his best performance ever, in my view. Better than Loma, even.
Yeah, 100%.
Better than Loma.
Yeah, 100%.
That guy beats anyone at 140. Regis Prograis, then.
That's the one, yeah.
Devin Haney at 140.
Yeah, beats Devin at 140. Yeah, beats Devin. Devin's a good boxer. I think
Bill
Devin-
Haney would say that that's a bit different.
Maybe
That he
so.
deals with him. That he
Maybe
deals
so,
with
but
him.
the proof's in the pudding. When Teo needs to step up in when the bright lights are on Teofimo Lopez, and I'm talking the very brightest, Loma and Josh, he's proven it. I know some people will point to the Cambosos one. You know, we can all have a hiccup. I think when the pressure's on, this guy delivers. He delivers.
There's another thing here that we need to talk about, which was people were talking about his mental frailty going into it. He is a bit of a lunatic.
Yeah.
I saw that in the interview. We talked about lunacy, that I said, you know, we're attracted to guys who have a bit of lunacy. And,
Yeah.
He's got a big following. He'll have a bigger following now. When I was watching him dance in there live, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't sit down during the fight. I stood up the whole time, by the way. It's an amazing thing in the theatre where you're in these 5 rows of seats behind the stage with that whole bank of audience
Wonderful
in front of
the Hulu.
Amazing.
So, yes,
I remember. I'll never forget Michael Conlan's debut there when Conor McGregor turned up. It was just bagpipes and noise. And I think the key with Teo is, and Bill Haney said it going into the fight, they knew, those two families knew each other in the amateurs in America. Teo used to box like that as an amateur. Comfortable in their movement. That's his playground. He made it his playground on Saturday night. He just enjoyed it so much. And I think if that guy, and I think he will now, that guy will turn up every time.
Yeah.
He'll give everyone a big fight. He might even go up to 147.
Agreed. He's got the frame. He's got the frame to go up to 147.
He doesn't beat Crawford for me. Doesn't beat Spence.
Maybe not, but they won't be around when he gets there. They won't be around. I don't.
So it might be a super fight in a year and a half.
Maybe Crawford 35, Spence I think will go to 154. But it's funny you say it about.
He's not retiring though, is he?
No, of course he's not retiring. Of course, but you put it out there because right now he's a free agent, and you know you go to the highest bidder. He's got a belt. The name value, as you say, is risen. The stock's risen. So if I am top ranked, DAZN, Showtime, whoever, I'm paying him big money because I know this guy will deliver, and he sells the fights as well. As much as we talk about the mental state in the lead up to it, it sold the fight. That little back and forth with his dad when he's being interviewed, I think by ESPN, it sold it. I was intrigued by it. These little digs at you when he was doing the little sit down, the heated sit down with Josh Taylor, sold the fight. And I think we're too quick to talk about, like, there's so many people online saying, oh, he should be pulled from the fight. His mental state's not right. I'm like, they're fighters.
Exactly.
They're fighters. Let them do what they do. So look.
That fight put him back on track mentally, by the way.
Way back on track. And look, I think there's a bit of kidology with him as well. Like after the Sandor Martin fight, do I still got it? And now he clearly has still got it. I'm not sure about him being the best 140 guy, but I will say this, he's the man that's now beat the man. And he did that at 135 in Loman, he did it at 140 now in Josh. And you look at those 4 kings, so Ryan, Devon, Javante and him, Shakur was just out. He was obviously a bit lower in weight class. He's achieved way more than all of them. Forget about bums on seats and you know how many pay-per-views you can sell. In terms of just resume, he's beaten Loma and Josh, which is insane. And I think he deserves a lot more respect for it.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him. I think even though he's a bit bigger, there are super fights out there. He's put himself in the super fight bracket now.
They're in it.
It's as simple as that.
They're in it. It reminds me of like 15 years ago, the 147 division, which was fully loaded. So it wasn't just Floyd and Pacquiao. You had Cotto, you had Bradley, you had Zab Judah, Shane Mosley. It was loaded. And this sort of 135, 140 division is fully loaded. It's fully loaded. And all these guys that walk around really at 150 can make either weight class. So many super fights, a lot of money for these young kids to make. And as George said there, boxing's in a very good place. You're going to get your guys that moan that, oh, we're not getting the super fights. This first 6 months in the boxing calendar has been incredible. Yeah. Honestly, it's been incredible. Obviously, the heavyweights are slowing things down a bit, but if they can happen the back end of the year, I think there's a discussion to say this could be the best year we've had for boxing in
a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, talking about very good year in boxing and, you know, the heavyweights, I caught up with Zhieli Zhang at the theatre at Madison Square Garden, and this is what he had to say about Tyson Fury. Great to see you, Kurt. Zhieli Zhang here in New York. Obviously, Joe Joyce has reenacted the rematch clause. Do you have a contract yet? Do you know when you're going to fight?
你跟乔维斯的合同到底签还是没签？什么时候比赛呢？合同到现在还没有签，说的是9月份比赛。
We didn't sign a contract yet, but we're looking at September as a possible date.
Where is the fight going to take place?
大概是在哪个会场？ 大概会在英国伦敦。
In England, in London, you're saying, yeah?
Yeah.
And you're expecting it in September, yeah?
Yeah, September.
When do you expect the contract to be signed?
感觉什么时候签合同？
我现在还不知道，推广公司现在还没有把合同发过来，然后我们也在等待。
I don't know. Depends on when the contract will be signed. It will be sent to me. I'm still waiting.
And who would you like to fight next?
如果说从心里话，谁想可以打？
我最想打的就是泰森福里，Gypsy Queen。
So Tyson Fury, Gypsy Queen.
Oh! Do you think you're the perfect opponent for him for September?
你觉得9月份是泰森弗里你跟他打，你会是一个完美的对手吗？
当然会。I'm ready. I'm all ready. He is talk ready.
He said, I'm all ready. He's talking ready.
What would you do to Tyson Fury?
你会把泰森弗里怎么干？
当然是在拳台上一拳头干他。
I'll smash him with my fist in the ring.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Big Bang Zhang.
Big Bang Zhang,
Big Bang
but
Zhang.
calling Tyson Fury the Gypsy Queen.
Oh, it's cheeky.
Very cheeky.
Very cheeky.
Said he wanted to fight Tyson Fury. Obviously, the rematch clause, as George didn't tell us, but as I spoke to him earlier, they couldn't do anything about that. Joe Joyce wanted the rematch clause. Zhang would have been the perfect opponent in September for Tyson Fury here at a Wembley Stadium or a stadium.
Yeah, perfect opponent, and he still could be. He still could be one of those future fights down the line. But he's 40 years old, so he needs to get on with it. Like a lot of the top heavyweights, by the way. That top level of heavyweights, very old. I mean, Deontay Wilder, 37. Alexander Usyk, 36. Fury's in his 30s. AJ, 33. They haven't got long to get all these fights together, but I'm still... It's funny because I watched that Zhang Joyce fight again just to remind myself of how Zhang did it. And it was so surreal to see Joe Joyce take a backward step like that. Surreal. And I favour Zhang in the rematch as well, because most times whoever wins the first fight, most times wins the second.
Yeah.
But that's a good fight for September.
It really is. Yeah. And listen... Zhang's not to be underestimated. No. I thought he was great against Flip Hrgovic. I don't think he
won that fight.
I agree.
He won that fight.
I think he won that fight
He won that fight. It's funny because I was there. I was
He's number 6 in the world for me.
Yeah. So
he's
imagine this.
5, 6 in the world.
100%. I mean, your last 2 fights, you beat Hrgovic, you beat Joyce. That's as solid as any heavyweight resume out there right now. So yeah, he deserves his credit. And if he beats Joyce again, man, he's right in the mix with the big boys in the division.
While we're talking heavyweights, I spoke to one of the great heavyweight presidents, Paco Valcárcel, who was in New York. Here's what he had to tell me at the moment about the heavyweight division. He's the president of the WBO, of course. Legendary figure. Here's Paco. I'm here with Paco Valcárcel, the president of the WBO here in New York. Obviously, we're here for Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez, an amazing fight between these two, which we're really looking forward to. But Paco, I wanted to ask you, what's your feeling at the moment about the heavyweight division? Should we be seeing an undisputed title between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury?
Yeah, remember, I'm on my position as president of WBO and boxing fan. I'm no fan, I'm boxing addict. And any boxing fan wants to see a unification in the heavyweights. And Usyk and Fury will be the perfect match. You know, 2 big guys fighting as a featherweight. That will be huge, amazing. I can't wait to watch that fight.
And if Usyk beats Daniel Dubois in August, do you think we will have that fight later this year?
I don't want to predict anything because in boxing anything can happen.
True.
You remember when Andy Ruiz fought right here.
Oh yeah.
Against Joshua. You know, everybody and
4 years ago.
No, not that. When I remember Corey Sanders when he fought Vladimir. Everyone was talking about Vladimir and this, and in boxing anything can happen. But if they had to fight, it would be the best match you can see in the heavyweight. Better than Joshua because it will be more competitive.
So you think that Fury is ahead of Joshua, and Usyk obviously is?
Joshua in his best and Fury in his best, that was a great match. But now, you know, Joshua has been a warrior, you know, tough fight. It's not the same Joshua we saw 5 or 6 years ago. But you know, it will be a great match because they're both British, and it will be huge. But boxing match, Fury and Usyk will be the best you can see.
Why have we waited, if it happens this year, why have we waited 24 years? Why does it happen so rarely? Last time was Lennox, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you remember that the heavyweights is always interesting. It was the best division in boxing, but we have like a gap, you know, a gap that we didn't have a big name in the heavyweights after Lennox Lewis, you know, like when Muhammad Ali passed away, then we got a gap. Now we have Tyson Fury, and we got all Wilder in America. We didn't have any good heavyweight in America after a lot of years. You know, Wilder came and did a lot of stuff for the heavyweights in America, but that happened in boxing. You know, you got a gap, and then we can have another good guy, and then 10 or 12 years more a good another guy. Now the best division are the all that time the best division was the lightweights, the
welterweights, yeah.
You know what?
Mayweather, Pacquiao, that period.
That period.
All right, 30 years you've been watching the heavyweights in your position as president, yeah? I think it's 30 years, isn't it?
Yeah, close to 30. Since
Yeah.
1995.
Yeah.
January.
Name the best 3 heavyweights in that period then.
It's tough, you know, because we Klitschko. You have to have Klitschko. And you can have both Klitschko because we're good.
Yeah.
Lennox Lewis was great. Riddick Bowe was great too.
You going to Mike Tyson in there?
Oh, Tyson was the best. You know, Tyson was one of the greatest heavyweights. But now with that big guys, you know, big dudes in the heavyweights, I don't know what we have in Tyson.
Where do you put Where do you put Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and Alexander Usyk in that group?
You know, everybody got something. You know, Wilder, we got a gap in America. We didn't have a good heavyweight. Wilder was there when we needed. Okay, Fury, it's unique. You know, because the charisma, personality,
the songs,
He's a character. He's a character.
And he can box.
Oh, he can box. He got ability. You know, he was WBO champ first. You know, so we made him mandatory for Vladimir, and he bring Vladimir to school. But Vladimir was a good fighter. But he got charisma. He got a power. He's smart. A great guy. Okay, you got Usyk, who is now the face of Ukraine, and everybody wants Ukraine to be free. We want more wars, and we have peace, and he means something for
yeah, he's got so much support, hasn't he?
That's something you have to add to a fighter. He's a fighter, but plus he got a plus. Usyk, that plus. It means liberty, freedom, whatever. You know, Ukraine, peace, and then you got Fury, who got the power, but he's like a featherweight. It's a character with charisma. It's just one, La Fury.
They haven't fought yet, those two, and we need to see them fight. As we said at the beginning of the interview, Usyk and Fury. Who's the number one at the moment?
I don't want to rate anybody, but you know, we have to see. If you say, okay, in papers, okay, Fury will be the you know.
On paper, yeah, the favorite, yeah.
But let's see what happens in the ring.
And does the Saudi money help, or does it make the situation slow without being political about it?
Money help, you know, where the money is.
The fighters go. Yeah.
And I don't blame the guys because that's a job. You know, they have to make money, and I am pleased when they are making money.
It's a shame. Sometimes it's part of the nuance of boxing.
I don't trust any presidents.
Well, look,
Don't trust
again,
Don't trust
it's a business, and the heavyweight business is the biggest in boxing.
Yes.
It's the big money stakes. They're not going to upset Skills Challenge in Saudi Arabia. They've all got sanctioning fees. Alexander Usyk is a 3-belt holding champion. Tyson Fury, the WBC champion. Mauricio Suleiman was over here last week, moving and shaking. They are not statutory bodies, they're self-appointed bodies.
Yes.
But we can't do anything about them. They're here and they exist. We work with them.
I agree, but it goes to show how desperate boxing is for a world governing body. It's because it is the wild
I agree with you.
It's funny because from the outside looking in many years ago when I didn't work in boxing, I never understood it. And I was like, oh, now working inside boxing, you realize how fragmented it is. It's all over the place. And I don't know if all these sanctioning bodies help, and presidents of bodies and Mauricio Suleiman wearing Canelo hats and all. It's crazy. It really is. But look, let's hope they do something about this heavyweight logjam, because it's a logjam, and it's a shame because those 4 fights, those 4 top guys would make millions, sold out stadiums, pay-per-view buys. It would grow the sport. All the casual fans would jump on board. And right now it's on pause, and it's a bit of a disgrace.
When the heavyweights fight, when the big heavyweights fight, it's as big as the biggest football games, the World Cup finals, the European Championships, the end of the Premier League, the Italian league.
It's nothing bigger.
There's nothing bigger.
Nothing bigger.
And it's all on one night, and all the energy focused in. It's an extraordinary thing to be involved in, but there are peaks and troughs in it all. We do need, by the end of this era, it'll be a failed era if we do not see Fury and Usyk. I still want to see Fury and Joshua, but if Joshua gets badly beaten by Deontay Wilder, perhaps Fury Joshua is a difficult sell.
It's going to be a very difficult sell.
You know, but it's a fight we've been teased with so much.
Yeah.
It's a great fight for our nation.
It is. I mean, two of the biggest and best heavyweights of the last sort of 15 years, and they're both on our shores, in and around the same age, both world champions, former in AJ. It has to happen. It's such a big fight. It'll be a travesty.
But we said that for years, Ade, when I was covering for 10 years on the road, covering Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, and I can remember a lot of us in the media were working to get the fight together, believe it or not, because we do have an involvement in it. We are getting people together. We are making headlines with things. And that fight still generated $700 million US,
Crazy.
even though it was probably 6 years too late.
It's crazy.
I think Mayweather didn't want it till then, frankly.
Yeah, I've always said that.
But we don't want Fury and Joshua in 2026.
Yeah, especially if.
But it might be. It might be.
You say though, but if AJ does get splattered by Deontay Wilder, I'm a massive AJ fan.
But he'll come back in 2 years' time after a couple of victories that might be Pyrrhic or whatever.
If it's like a Dominic Brazil type knockout or a Helenius knockout, I don't think he will. Honestly,
if he comes back and proves something after that, are you not going to watch that fight? Whenever it is?
I'll watch it. I'm a boxing fan. We're almost the wrong people to ask. You almost need to ask the guy on the street.
Maybe.
Will you watch AJ Fury if AJ gets knocked out by Wilder? You know, you lose your interest a little bit. So if it does happen, it needs to happen ASAP. But let's play the other side. If AJ beats Wilder, how big is Fury AJ if AJ knocks out Wilder?
Can AJ knock out Wilder? Come on, sit there. AJ fan.
Can he knock out Wilder? No.
If you hit him with the right punch, he could.
I
don't think he wins. I think he loses. I think he gets stopped in 6, 7, 8 rounds.
What?
No, I think Wilder stops.
I know, and I'm saying what?
Yeah, but that's just my view. I'm not saying I want that to happen. That's what I think.
I think AJ could win a points decision, but I don't think he can knock. It's been a long time since
Wilder's going to hit him.
It's been a long time since we've seen AJ literally put anyone to sleep.
All right. Bottom line, do you actually think that fight is going to happen in Saudi?
Yes, 100%.
Well,
1,000%. Which is why I think there is a bit of stalling about AJ, Dillian White in August.
We can see that?
Huh?
We're going to see that?
Yes.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I feel like I'm saying yes as the DAZN employee, like I'm giving you some inside scoop. I'm saying yes as a fan. I hope it happens. But no, I'm hearing it will.
Right now, the chessboard is frozen. It's on ice. We do not know exactly what's going to be happening. There's no offer from the Saudis, from Skills Challenge, for any of these guys. There's no actual physical offer on the table. We can confirm that. So all the talk is just chutzpah.
Yeah.
Basically, it's hype and promotion. Let's move on.
Go on to real things.
Well, I caught up with Dmitry Bivol very briefly in New York at Legends Bar, and as I asked him, does it ever get tiring to hear, and the winner against Saul Canelo Alvarez is Dmitry Bivol? Here's what he said to me. It's very short, this, but here's what he had to say. It's very loud in here.
Yeah.
Champions League final. We're speaking for the first Fight Club show in the UK. Why did you come to America?
Now,
Why did you come to America?
because I got my award 2 days ago as a fighter of the year, and I got it. This is why I come to US.
Is it a dream to fight in the United States?
You know, the dream is like to be the fighter of the year. The dream is like to be the world champion. This is the dream. But doesn't care where. Of course, it's good to fight in Madison Square Garden. It's good to fight in Las Vegas. But it's not main goal in my career to fight in Las Vegas or in Madison Square Garden. Main goal is different. It's belt, it's legacy.
The biggest legacy you will ever have is beating Canelo.
Yeah, and this, of course, it's, to get the belt, it's bigger than to beat someone. But your legacy, if you want to make your legacy, you should have great opponents. It wouldn't be great if you had not good opponents. And Canelo was a great opponent, one of the great, I think greatest in my career. And I hope I will have more great opponents.
When I say Bivol versus Canelo, and the winner is Bivol, how does it make you feel?
I like when my name and word win close, you know.
Who else do you want to? Do you want to fight Beterbiev?
I want to fight for the belt.
You have to fight him.
I have to fight.
You have to fight him.
Why
You're not the number one if you don't fight him.
I agree.
Does he win against Callum Smith?
He has more chances, I think.
Okay. I've got so much time for
I love
Bivol.
him. I like, you know, obviously I've got his jacket.
Yeah.
I've got his jacket, and it's
Yeah.
not. And I've got the video of it still, so everyone knows it's literally the jacket off his back after the biggest win of his career. I love him. He's my best fighter fighting right now. To watch him, I think, is sensational. It shows how sometimes it takes a while to get where you need to get to. You know, who would have thought that the same Bivol we're watching now is the guy that fought Craig Richards and looked really bad second half of the fight. I just hope that a fighter, you know what annoys me about, not him, but just what's going on with him, a fighter that good, fighter of the year last year, hasn't fought this year. And he's not going to fight until September, October. It's a disgrace. He should have had a fight by now, and I wanted the fight to be Boatsi, but here we are in June, Bivol hasn't fought.
Yeah, and obviously, very quickly, in fact, before we go on to that, about Beterbiev, Artur Beterbiev and Callum Smith, Bivol, Canelo rematch doesn't look like it's going to happen right now. Again, skills challenge. It looks like Canelo's people are talking with Amir Abdullah for a fight with Badu Jack, WBC cruiserweight champion. That looks like another big spinning money fight in Saudi Arabia.
100%. That's going to be the one it looks like. You think of all the options that Canelo has been spoken about. Benavidez, there's been talks about Jamal Charlo going up to 168 and Bivol. I never thought Badu Jack. If he wanted to be a 5-weight world champion, he had the opportunity to fight Lunga Makabu, which I thought would have been easier, but he went the Bivol route. So it's a bit weird him going to the Badu Jack route now. Badu Jack's a lot bigger than Canelo.
A very, very weather-worn.
Very, very weather-worn.
I love Badu. Been a friend of him for 20 years.
Yeah.
But he's very weather-worn.
It's a weird route for Canelo, this one.
I don't think it is. I think it's about notches in the bedpost. I think it's about a 5th division as champion. I think it's a legacy fight for him.
You think it's a legacy fight in terms of he becomes a 5-weight world champion? But in terms of the name,
that's what it's for.
That's what it's for.
And there's
isn't it?
big money in Saudi.
Do you think he's scared of Benavidez?
No, I don't. But he
didn't look good in the John Ryder fight.
He's playing to his own tune.
He can do what he wants.
Yeah,
he can do what he wants.
I think he's probably past his best.
Yeah,
I think he has a very good fight with Badu Jack. I think he just squeaks through that.
Do you think he retires after the Badu Jack?
He might well do. He may never face Benavidez, who is a guy at super middleweight. We want him to fight because I tell you what, that's a crusher.
If Canelo were to fight Benavidez and beat Benavidez,
he's done it. Then
we need to have a discussion of where he ranks in the pantheon of top 20
I
fighters.
agree. That's the
Because
fight.
his resume then would be
yeah,
sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's like Fury fighting Usyk in this generation.
This is it.
The guy you got to fight. The guy that's
you
tricky
have
for
to
you.
want, the one.
That
Yeah.
might beat you because the others aren't going to.
Agreed.
Where else am I going? Oh, yeah. Beterbiev and Smith. We looking forward to that? Quebec City in August?
Can't wait. It's a shame that Matchroom lost out on the purse bids for that one, because that would have been, you know why? Because it would have been so good to see that one at the Echo Arena or the AO Arena or the O2 Arena. It would have been massive, right? I mean, seeing Beterbiev over here for the Anthony Yard fight, it's good to see these fighters over here. It's going to be a tougher fight for Callum in Canada, but this is a different Callum under Buddy McGirt. He looks a bit more aggressive. He's using that frame and size now to bully you. And Beterbiev's, 38, 39? You never know. Took a couple of dicks from Anthony Yard. Should be a good fight. It's a good light heavyweight division. It's good. Like Vosdick was on the undercard of Canelo Ryder. He looked good. He's back. All of a sudden, you got 5 or 6 names. But good luck to Callum Smith. That's a daunting task, going to Canada and beating that guy, that killer in Canada.
Got to say, Beterbiev is one of my favourite boxers of this era. You're watching Fight Club. We'll be back in a minute. We've got my one to watch, which I'm going to do every week, a young man called Cayden Griffiths. We've got an interview with Leigh Wood, who won awards in New York last week. Welcome back to Fight Club. In the final segment today, in this very first show, our inaugural show, Get the Thesaurus Out, we are going to discuss my one to watch, a young light welterweight, I think he is, fighter, Cayden Griffiths, who I met in New York last week. Here's the young man. Part of my one to watch series, Cayden Griffiths, 17, fighting at 138 as an amateur, going to be 140 as a pro, 17 years old, Indio, California. Why are you my one to watch this week?
I've had a lot of fights in the amateurs. I have almost close to 100 fights.
3 times national champion.
3-time national champion. I've always been complimented for my pro style, so I'm just looking forward to showing that in the pros and making a lot of noise. I want to fight the best. I want to prove that I'm the best, and I think that turning pro is a great step towards that.
You're not from a broken home. You're not from the hood. Why are you fighting?
To be the best. Ever since I was little, I had a dream of being the best, and watching all these champions growing up, it makes me want to be better than them. And, I take that as motivation, and I've just kind of grown from that.
You're a switch hitter?
Yeah, I switch back and forth.
Who's your inspiration as a boxer?
I grew up watching a lot of Triple G, Lomachenko, just a lot of skills, power. And now I'm seeing a lot of new talent emerging from,
You're fighting all the Eastern Europeans every day, aren't you?
Yeah.
They're turning you into granite.
Yeah, I've been, sparring partners with Mirjan Akhmadaliev, Shakram Giasov, and now...
And you beat them up, don't you?
No, it's good sparring, they teach me that, I'm really going to get up, and I'm looking forward to showing this.
Well, I look forward to following your career. Cheers, my brother. Cheers. Thank you. So he trains in a gym with loads of Eastern Europeans, with Bivol, with all these guys. He's sparring every day. He's not from the hood. He's a white kid.
Yeah.
He's half German, half Irish, but he just loves the sport. We never know at that stage, 17, where they're going to make it. He's a shoot going to the Olympics. Cayden Griffiths. Have you got one that we should watch out for at the moment?
I think most would know Xander Zayas.
Yeah.
If you don't,
16-0,
16
10 knockouts.
10 knockouts. He had an 8-rounder on the undercards.
De Puerto Rico, tío.
Does want to impress maybe a bit too much. Like really plays up for the crowd. But I've seen him. He's a big guy.
Fast hands, great
extremely
movement.
Fast hands.
Yeah.
And again,
not got his man strength yet.
No, and that will
He's
come.
only 20.
That will come. And as you say, Puerto Rican, they are looking for that next star. They thought they had it in Edgar Berlanga. I think there's question marks there. And they've always had it. Tito Trinidad, Miguel Cotto, Amanda Serrano. So they're looking for that next one to cling on to. So he could be the one that fills out the big room in MSG in a few years to come. So watch out for the name.
Absolutely, Xander Zayas. And also, of course, they don't want to rush him too much. The big thing for me is his man strength won't come maybe for 2 years. And we saw that on Saturday night at the Garden on the undercard of Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez. Well, out in New York last week, I know you'll be friends with him. You were covering his event brilliantly, Leigh Wood, when he beat Mauricio Lara a couple of weekends ago in Manchester. Leigh Wood was there getting awards from the BWAA, the Boxing Writers Association of America.
Easy for you to say.
Fighter of the Year against Michael Conlan in the Fight of the Year, of course, last year. But Leigh Wood, for me, is one of those great guys. Here's what he had to tell me. Well, who should pop up in New York? But there he is, under the lights. Yes, go on, take your cap off so we can see who it is. Yeah, it's the newly crowned two-time featherweight champion of the world. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. First time in New York. I love the place.
And what made you come here then?
You know, Josh's fight and the Boxing Writers Awards as well, so 2 birds, 1 stone. Short little visit in and out. Yeah, looking forward to the fight tomorrow.
Tell me about the Boxing Writers of America Awards. What happened there?
Yeah, I got an award for the Conlan fight, the Conlan victory, Fight of the Year. Obviously it takes 2 to tango, so credit to Mick as well. Yeah. Let's see you under the lights now. But yeah, you know, it takes 2 to tango. To credit to Mick as well for playing his part. They gave us a belt each. Mick wasn't there, obviously. So I'm sure he'll get his as well in the post. But yeah, it was nice to join that long list of fighters. Fight of the Year contenders like, there've been so many. Gatti Ward and Vodnikov, Pacquiao. To have been into that list is an honour.
Now you're over here in America and you start to get the feel of what's going on here and all that kind of stuff. New York's very special. We're here inside Madison Square Garden.
Fast pace.
Does it not make you want to have a fight here?
To be honest, I prefer Vegas, but Madison Square Garden is historical as well. There's been a lot of fights here in the past. So here or Vegas, for my last fight, it was a possibility and something I like to do. But first and foremost, is the city ground.
Absolutely. And have you moved on in terms of after the Lara victory on deciding when, who it might be with chats with Eddie Hearn?
No, we've got conversations to have, meetings to have soon. I think Warrington's a front runner just because of the amount of fans it needs to fill a stadium that size. It needs to be a big fight, one that people get behind. Two local rival clubs, sorry.
So it will be Warrington, yeah?
Possibly. Lopez, a unification fight, could even do that as well. We'll see. We've got a lot of options, but I think realistically, I think it will be Warrington for the city round.
And what does it feel like a couple of weeks after it that you are the champion of the world once more, that you've proved all the doubters, if there were doubters, wrong?
There was a lot of them. And a lot of people thought the rematch was too fast. A lot of people thought it was crazy for picking him in the first place. And they probably thought that was right, but you know, I knew what I did wrong. I should have done this the first time. You know, I should have played it safe, but I kind of went for the knockout the first time. I wanted a showcase finish. I wanted, you know, that knockout highlight reel to beat him in style, but you know, you don't always have to do that. You need to play smart, be disciplined, and I showed that in the rematch.
You don't look like you've put on much weight either.
You know, I could be fighting pretty soon, you know. If I'm fighting City Ground, you know, and it's this year, it's probably going to be end of September, so I need to stay on it, stay training, keep on it, and that's no problem. I live well anyway, like I'm always in the gym. I love what I do, like I said before.
Are you a testament as well to believing, self-belief? Because it must have taken so much self-belief, Leigh, to come back after that first fight. Because I remember interviewing you literally a day or two afterwards, and you were like, I really didn't want Ben Davison pulling me out. I really didn't. I just wanted to go out on my sword. And it was something very deep inside you. And yet, perhaps you've learnt from it?
Yeah, for sure. Fighters need saving from themselves. Like, to do what we do at that level, you can't have a drop of cut in you. I believe you can't. You need to have that mindset of whatever it takes. If I get dropped 5 times, I'm getting up and I win. And that's the mindset you need to have. That's exactly why you need people like my trainer, Ben Davison, in the corner to look after me. And that was the best call he could have made because we had the fast turnaround. I wasn't injured. I didn't take any punishment, and I went back and put it right so quick. And if it not through the title, maybe or maybe not, I might have been all right. I might not. I might have took a lot of punishment. Who knows? But thanks to that call he made, we didn't find out.
Well, listen, thanks for joining me on Fight Club for Boxing Social. I'd love to get you in the studio one of the upcoming weeks.
For sure, and I'd love to come over. Give me a bit of time, I've got a bit of catching up to do with friends and family when I'm back, but a few days after, we'll make an appointment.
Leigh Wood and Josh Warrington
Love him.
next.
It's
Makes
gonna-
sense,
it's
City
gonna
Grounds,
happen. It's gonna
30,000 fans.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
You're going to be there with DAZN?
1 trillion %. Look, obviously, there is a small issue because he has a mandatory. I know Eddie's trying to get that mandatory put aside just for him to allow him to have this. And he deserves it. And, I love the idea of those two fan bases coming together at the City Ground. They'll sell it out easily. Half the stadium will be Leeds, half Forest. It'll be the greatest atmosphere we've seen for years because Warrington has crazy fans, but basically football fans, and Leigh Wood has football fans as well. So in terms of atmospheres, it will be sensational. And look, it's crazy. Like Leigh Wood is 34, going to be 35 soon. His CV in the last couple of years is going to add Zhu Can, it's going to add Michael Conlon, Mauricio Lara, and he's going to add Josh Warrington to it. I think.
Yeah, and if he beats Warrington, Lopez.
If he beats Warrington,
Who's
Lopez.
another Lara?
Yeah, nightmare.
I was out in Belfast with him. He's walking around Belfast on his own in the fight town, the away fighter, popping out to...
These Mexicans don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't care. They're from a different breed of place where this doesn't mean anything to them. Like I was watching Mauricio Lara when he fought Josh Warrington. He was coming out to Headingley and the Leeds fans were all over him. I mean, they were throwing beer at him and he was just smiling, laughing, just let me get in the ring. They're different. They should stop them at immigration because they're coming over and just smacking our kids up, aren't they? Stop them. Don't let them in. Don't let them in. Boxer, no, wrong entrance. But no, look, Leigh's got a tough one with Warrington, but if he gets through that, you're right. Maybe a swan song in America. I know he wants that. But I mean, look, I'm happy for him. He's made enough money to look after his life for the next 20, 30 years.
He's probably got 2 or 3 fights left. He's 34 years old.
This is it.
Hard as nails.
Hard as
I
nails.
reckon if Carl Froch forgives me for this...
Uh-oh, be careful what you're going to say now.
He's almost becoming the most famous boxer from the little village of Gedling, where Carl's from as well.
Hey, don't forget Carl's getting his Boxing Hall of Fame award recently as well, and the wonderful speech.
Yeah. Carl's amazing. We're going to see Carl in a minute because I've got a question to end the show for you. Very quickly, Sonny Edwards. Another great performance against Andrés Campos de Chile. 4th defence of his IBF flyweight title. For me, he's got to have a big fight next, a unification, a Bam Bam Rodriguez, who I think's the #1 in the division. If I'm fair, I think I've got Sonny at 2. Julio Cesar Martinez obviously beat his brother, but then it was annulled by the WBC. Or one of the biggest YouTube fights in history, blood on blood. Edwards versus Edwards, him versus his brother Charlie. Could we actually see that or not?
Nonsense, isn't it?
All right, maybe it's nonsense then. So Bam Bam Rodriguez or Julio Cesar Martinez?
Bam, I think Bam's the one.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's the one that they were...
Make it happen, Eddie.
Yeah, they were supposed to
Make
do
it happen,
face-to-face.
Eddie Hearn.
Bam was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Was supposed to get in the ring after and do a face-to-face. I think they couldn't agree terms with Bam in time for it to happen. But if you're Sonny, look, you've signed to the promoter and the broadcaster that have all those flyweights, and then you move up a division and you've still got all of those guys, and Estrada and Chocolatito and Cuadras is still around as well. So for Sonny, there are at least 6 or 7 big fights. Your big money one, unification, Bam, and maybe an undisputed fight down the line with Julio Cesar Martinez, move up a couple of pounds, and there's big fights out there as well. So it's time for him to collect those names and collect those checks. I sound like a hype man for him, but I'm a big fan of Sonny.
Here's the thing, right, in what we do, whether you like it or not, and we wear different hats, as I do. I mean, I do journalism that you don't do. I mean, as a newspaper writer. And sometimes you wear different hats and you are playing different roles. And I've had this argument with other journos. And obviously I will critique people over positive drugs tests and things that are wrong in the sports. But we do love this industry. We're insiders. We're invested in it. So we are part of the hype and promotion of it, whatever we're doing, whether we like it or not. Talking of which, Sonny Edwards, by the way, so talented and a real character.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow him on social media because he's kind of off the wall. And I used to think it was an act.
No, it's him.
But it's him.
It's him.
And I love it. Be real. Don't change Sonny Edwards. Conor Benn, I want you on the show. Yeah. This is a question for you. in a long time in my career, I've had spats with different fighters. Carl Froch, Deontay Wilder, and Conor Benn. Have a little look at these clips. I've had to go through these experiences with these three guys. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of life. The slapping of the microphone, Deontay Wilder in my face, Carl Froch trying to fight me and almost catching him with my head kick across his nose after his nose had been operated on. You've had a stellar rise in the sport. You're doing a brilliant job, as I said at the top of the show.
Thank you.
Have you had any run-ins with fighters yet?
No.
And how will you deal with it?
I'm not sure. The Conor Benn one's interesting. You mentioned you want Conor on the show. I've had Conor on my YouTube channel. I would say he's a good friend. I like Conor a lot.
I agree. I've got so much time for him. I think he's wonderful.
And it was so difficult to sort of navigate that murky waters of what happened with Conor. So it was like, am I being a DAZN fanboy here and sticking up for him? Am I being a bit too harsh on him? Am I being real to myself? It was so difficult. And I actually hadn't seen Conor up until might have been the Katie Taylor fight. I think he was in Ireland.
Did you not see him at Joshua and Franklin?
No, I saw him. He was behind me.
That's where I.
That's when you got the mic.
That's the first time I'd seen him.
He was behind me
since October last year,
and I could almost sense him being behind me. But I was working the show. So the Katie Taylor one, we actually crossed paths. Yeah. And we had a little moment. We had a couple of off air? Just off air, just me and him talking about the whole thing. And that was probably my only one. I did the face off between.
What happened?
Nothing. He just came up to me and said, he thought maybe I didn't say something. I can't remember. It was a tweet about John Jones. He mentioned. I was like, I didn't understand what he was talking about. He said there was a John Jones tweet or something along those lines. But that was a very difficult one. Obviously, I had the Boatsi Richards face-off I did. And Boatsi on the face-off said, Ade's had a dig at me on his YouTube channel. And I was like, have I? I can't even remember. So it's been difficult, especially because I have my YouTube channel where people expect me to be very honest and open like I used to be before I started working in boxing.
Are you not open and honest anymore?
I can't be as brutal as I once was, no.
But why would you?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, empathy is very important in what we do. These guys are bearing their spirits and their souls in what they do. And that's why I always want to be real with them when we see them and be real with them when we're not seeing them. Yeah. Because I don't have any malice towards anyone we cover. I respect all of them.
Oh, no. My love and respect for boxers.
And if they have a bad night, I'm not going to hammer them for it.
Yeah.
They're in a fight. They're bearing their souls. They're in the hardest sport on earth, in my view.
It's difficult. And
it is difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult. My respect for boxers since covering it, and when you're backstage and you sort of see family and friends, wives and daughters and mothers in tears, and you see their faces all battered and bruised, and they're doing the drug test, and they can barely stand up.
They can be legally killed in the ring, and that's what the family are going through.
And I also can see it when I'm doing that post-fight interview, which I hate doing those.
I love doing them.
It's weird, though, because I can see they're concussed. I can see some of the fighters are still very, they're like that a bit. Yeah. And you're like trying to get something, I don't know.
Listen, we get to do, and I get to do it on TalkSport with the post-fight interviews. It's such an honour. It's such a privilege to do those interviews and be on in that moment.
So
to be on.
You go through the ropes. Yeah. And it's funny because
you need to be asking the question. You know it in your head because you do it so brilliantly. And I love doing it as well. You want to ask the question that everyone at home wants to ask them.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And that is it.
It's funny, though, because sometimes, like with Katie Taylor-Chantel, I remember thinking, if Katie wins this is going to be the best post-fight interview ever. Because the place is just going to go insane. And after about a minute, I was thinking, she ain't going to win it. So in my head, I've got to change in my head. Because I'm not writing it down. I'm just going through, I'm just in my head thinking, what am I going to say? Kind of like what you do. I see you, no paper, no pen. You just get in there. So I'm like, oh, this is going to have to change now. Like, Chantel's winning this fight. Yeah. So it's just strange. Joshua is always tough.
He won easily on the eye test.
Joshua is always tough post-fight. Because Joshua wants to grab the mic and go walkies.
He's full of adrenaline after a fight.
And he's holding... He was literally trying, after the Franklin fight, he's literally trying to grab the mic. And I was like, no, you're not, because if you do this, I'm in trouble. So they're good. They're interesting post-fight interviews.
It's been brilliant having you here with me on the first show.
Thank you.
It's so comfortable.
It's easy.
I kind of like to have you every week. Maybe every other week.
Well, it's not far from where I am.
But although we do a show every week,
We
on
do a
Talk
show
Sport.
every week,
In fact,
yes.
we're doing one tomorrow, aren't we?
We are doing one tomorrow morning. I could keep talking for hours. This is
No,
fun.
we
This is so
could
easy.
absolutely. Listen, thank you
Thank you, brother.
so much indeed.
Appreciate it.
No, appreciate you coming on, coming in the studio.
Who's your favourite fighter, Gareth? Your favourite fighter fighting right now?
My favourite...
UK and US.
UK and US, my favourite fighter off the top of my head, fighting right now, is Shakur Stevenson.
Good shout. Good shout.
He's my favourite fighter.
He's so
I think
good,
he's the
isn't he?
most gifted
So
fighter
good.
on earth right now.
So good.
But I love heavyweight events, and I love the big fights. And I want to see Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk go at it. And I want to see Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. We're no further to knowing after today's show.
Are you going to Spence Crawford?
I maybe, I don't know yet.
That's
Depends
gonna
whether
be
they're hiring
sensation.
me as a gunslinger or not
That's
in this
gonna be
wild
sensational.
west of sports. Yeah, it is going to be really sensational. Ade,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much indeed.
Appreciate it, brother.
Here's me in New York. I found a Fight Club moment on the streets of Chinatown. There was Fight Club embossed on the pavement, so I had to get a photo. Have a look at this. Every week, I want you, wherever you are in the world, if you find a sign that's Fight Club, if you find it embossed on the streets, if you want to create Fight Club for yourself, send in your photos of you in Fight Club. You've been watching Fight Club. Tell us who you want on the show. I'm here for 12 weeks with Boxing Social. Let us know who you want on the show. We will do our utmost to do it. Ade Oladipo today, amazing guest. It's been a great show, loads of fun. This is Fight Club. I'm Gareth A. Davies, and I'll see you next week.